There is a type of man many women feel very comfortable around. They trust him. They talk to him about their problems. They ask him for advice. He listens. He understands. He supports them. But when it comes to dating, he is never the one they choose. Instead, they say things like, "You are such a great guy. You will make someone very happy one day. I don't want to ruin our friendship." If this has happened to you more than once, it is not just bad luck. There is usually a psychological pattern behind it. And once you understand that pattern, everything starts to make more sense. Number 1, he becomes the emotional support. A common path into the friend zone begins with something that looks positive, and that is exactly why so many men walk straight into it without realizing what is happening until it is already too late. Because you become the person who listens, the one who answers every message, the one who stays up late while she talks about her problems, the one who hears long stories about her day, about her frustrations, about the people who disappoint her, about the man who treats her badly yet somehow keeps her attention. And you sit there absorbing every word, believing that your patience and understanding will slowly build attraction, believing that loyalty will eventually be rewarded, believing that if someone sees how much you care, they will finally realize your value. But what actually happens in many of these situations is very different from what you imagine. Because while you think you are building emotional closeness that will lead to a relationship, the other person begins to place you in a very specific role in their life, the role of the dependable support system, the calm presence that helps them process their emotions, the person they trust when they need advice, the one who makes life easier when things go wrong, and that role feels comfortable, stable, predictable, almost like emotional furniture in their life, something they rely on but rarely question. And once that role becomes established, the mind naturally protects it because people prefer stability in their emotional support systems. They do not want that stability to change shape. And this is where many men start experiencing quiet confusion because they think deep conversations automatically create attraction, when in reality they often create familiarity instead. And familiarity without curiosity slowly turns into friendship. And friendship built on one-sided emotional labor creates a dynamic where you are always giving and rarely being seen as someone whose presence creates excitement or intrigue. So you sit across from someone at a cafe listening to stories about the person she is dating, and you nod politely while a voice inside you wonders how someone who gives so little attention manages to create more desire than you do after offering hours of support and understanding. And this moment is where many men start questioning themselves, wondering if kindness itself is the problem, wondering if caring too much is somehow unattractive, wondering if they need to become colder or distant to be noticed. But the deeper truth sits somewhere else, because the real issue is not kindness. The real issue is how the connection begins and what role you accept within it. And many men unknowingly accept the role of the helper very early, because helping others makes them feel useful and valued, and usefulness creates a sense of purpose, especially for someone who has spent years believing their value comes from what they provide for others, rather than the direction they are building for their own life. So they offer time, attention, solutions, emotional availability, and they do it generously. But when generosity flows without boundaries, it becomes expected rather than appreciated. And over time, the other person begins to see your availability as part of the natural environment around them, rather than something meaningful. And this is where the quiet imbalance grows, because you continue investing more and more while hoping the dynamic will shift naturally. Yet the other person experiences the relationship as stable friendship, and in their mind, nothing feels missing, nothing feels incomplete, nothing pushes them to rethink the role you already occupy. And that realization can be difficult to accept because it forces you to look inward and ask questions about your own habits and choices. Questions like, Why do I immediately move into problem-solving mode when someone shares a struggle? Why do I rush to make someone comfortable before they have even earned a place in my life? Why do I invest emotional energy before the connection has had time to develop naturally? And answering those questions requires honesty with yourself, because the pattern usually begins long before the specific relationship you are thinking about right now. It often begins with how you learned to build connection earlier in life, perhaps growing up in environments where being helpful made you valuable, where being calm and understanding kept relationships stable, where solving problems for others earned appreciation, and those habits carry into adulthood, where they continue shaping how you interact with people. So when you meet someone you like, your instinct is to show value through service rather than presence, through solutions rather than curiosity, through availability rather than mystery. And at first this feels right because being supportive aligns with your character, but attraction grows through a slightly different process. Attraction begins when someone notices that your life already has movement, already has direction, already has priorities that exist outside of pleasing them, and that movement sparks curiosity because people become interested in those who are building something meaningful for themselves, not in those who immediately reorganize their entire focus around another person they barely know. So imagine two different situations that look similar on the surface, but feel completely different beneath the surface. In the first situation, a man meets someone he likes and instantly becomes deeply invested in every aspect of her life. He listens to every problem, responds to every message within seconds, rearranges his schedule to be available whenever she wants to talk, and within a few weeks his entire emotional energy revolves around maintaining that connection. While in the second situation, a man meets someone he likes and he enjoys the conversations. He listens attentively. He shares parts of his own life, but his time remains balanced. He continues pursuing his goals. He continues living a full life outside the connection. He responds when it suits his schedule rather than abandoning everything to maintain constant communication. And slowly the other person begins wondering about him, wondering what he is working on, wondering what drives his decisions, wondering what kind of life he is building, and that curiosity keeps the connection alive, because curiosity feeds attraction in ways constant emotional support never can. And this is where Stoic discipline becomes powerful in relationships, because it reminds you to remain grounded in your own path instead of losing yourself in someone else's emotional world. When someone shares their struggles, you listen without immediately trying to fix everything. You offer perspective without sacrificing your own priorities. You maintain calm presence without becoming responsible for their emotional stability, and that shift alone changes the entire dynamic. Because instead of appearing like someone who exists primarily to support others, you begin appearing like someone whose life has its own center of gravity, someone who values their time and attention enough to give it thoughtfully rather than endlessly. And when that happens, something interesting unfolds because people begin treating your presence differently. Conversations become more balanced. Interest grows from both sides instead of flowing in only one direction. And suddenly the pattern that once felt confusing begins making sense, because you see how small behavioral shifts reshape the emotional structure of the relationship. And this understanding becomes incredibly empowering, because it means the friend zone is not some permanent label attached to your identity. It is simply the result of patterns that can be changed through awareness and discipline. So instead of offering unlimited emotional support to every person who enters your life, you begin choosing when and how you invest your energy. You begin observing how people respond to your presence rather than immediately trying to prove your value. You ask yourself whether the connection feels mutual before you deepen your investment, and these choices transform the way others perceive you because they signal something very important. They signal that you respect your own life enough not to abandon it for someone who has not yet earned that level of attention. And the moment you internalize that principle, the entire experience of relationships begins shifting, because you stop chasing validation through usefulness and start building a life that naturally attracts interest, and that transformation begins quietly within your daily actions, within the decisions you make about your time, your attention, your priorities. And when those decisions align with self-respect and discipline, the dynamic that once trapped you in the friend zone slowly disappears, replaced by connections built on mutual curiosity, balanced investment, and genuine interest in who you are becoming rather than how much support you provide. And if this realization is opening your eyes to patterns you have lived through for years, there is a deeper path that helps you rebuild your approach to relationships and life itself, which is exactly why the Stoic Relationship Blueprint exists, a powerful guide for men built on timeless Stoic principles that show you how to stop losing yourself in other people's emotional needs and start building the discipline, clarity, and self-respect that naturally changes how others see and treat you. It is now available in audiobook form, so you can absorb these life-changing insights while walking, jogging, commuting, or training, turning ordinary moments of your day into quiet training for your mind and character. The link is in the comments, and once you get it, the knowledge becomes yours permanently, meaning you can return to it whenever you need strength, direction, and perspective as you continue building the kind of life and presence that no longer gets placed quietly into the background. Number 2. He hides his romantic interest. Another pattern appears quietly, and it traps countless men without them realizing it until months or even years have passed. Because you meet someone who captures your attention, and instead of expressing that interest clearly, you decide to play it safe. You talk casually. You keep conversations comfortable. You hide the fact that you want more than friendship because you think patience will eventually reveal your value. You believe that if she spends enough time around you, she will notice your loyalty, your kindness, your stability, and suddenly she will wake up one day and understand that you are the obvious choice. But while this silent strategy is unfolding inside your head, the reality unfolding in front of you is completely different, because the other person interprets your behavior exactly as it appears, which is friendly, supportive, reliable, and emotionally safe, but not romantic. And that misunderstanding quietly builds a structure around the relationship where you continue investing energy while she continues seeing the connection as platonic. And this happens because human beings rely heavily on signals to understand each other's intentions. Signals that communicate interest, signals that communicate curiosity, signals that communicate desire for deeper connection. And when those signals are absent, the mind naturally assumes the simplest explanation, which is that the relationship exists only as friendship. So you sit across from her listening to stories about someone she is seeing, while your mind keeps repeating the same thought over and over again. If she only understood how much I care, things would be different. But caring alone does not communicate attraction, because attraction requires clarity. It requires the courage to step forward and express intention even when the outcome is uncertain. And many men avoid that moment because they believe maintaining the connection at any cost is better than risking the possibility that the connection could disappear. So they remain silent about their intentions while hoping circumstances will somehow change. But time quietly locks the dynamic into place, because the longer you behave like a friend, the more firmly the friendship identity becomes established, and eventually, when you do try to reveal your true interest, the reaction often sounds familiar. She says you are a great person. She says she values your presence. She says she does not want to change what already works so well. And in that moment, frustration grows inside you because you have invested months or even years building closeness, only to realize the relationship never existed in the form you imagined. And the painful truth hiding beneath this pattern is that your silence created the misunderstanding, not your character, not your kindness, not your value as a partner, but the absence of clear intention allowed the connection to grow in a direction you never wanted. And understanding this truth becomes a powerful turning point because it shifts your attention away from blaming external circumstances and toward examining your own choices. Choices like delaying honest communication because you wanted to avoid discomfort. Choices like pretending to be satisfied with friendship while secretly hoping it would transform into something else. Choices like prioritizing emotional safety over truthful expression. And once you see this pattern clearly, you begin recognizing how many opportunities passed quietly because you chose to remain silent instead of speaking openly about what you wanted. And this realization can sting at first because it forces you to confront the gap between what you desire and how you communicate that desire. But it also opens the door to transformation because the solution becomes incredibly simple. Even if it requires courage, you start expressing your interest earlier in the connection. You stop disguising romantic curiosity behind endless friendly conversations. You stop pretending you are satisfied with a dynamic that does not align with your intentions, and this shift immediately changes the way people perceive you. Because clarity signals confidence, it signals self-respect. It signals that you value your time enough to communicate honestly, rather than waiting indefinitely for someone else to interpret your behavior correctly. And this approach aligns perfectly with Stoic discipline because it focuses on what you can control, which is your actions, your words, your willingness to live truthfully instead of hiding behind comfort. So imagine meeting someone who captures your attention, and instead of quietly hoping things develop, you simply express that you enjoy spending time with them and you want to take them out for something more intentional than casual conversation. This statement does not need dramatic energy. It does not need rehearsed lines. It simply communicates direction, and that direction forces the connection to reveal its true nature immediately. Either the interest is mutual or it is not. And in both situations you gain clarity rather than wasting months trapped in uncertainty. And clarity is one of the most powerful forms of freedom because it allows you to invest your energy where it is appreciated instead of pouring attention into situations that will never move beyond friendship. And once you adopt this mindset, your behavior changes naturally because you stop approaching connections as long games, where patience eventually earns affection, and you start approaching them as honest interactions between two people, exploring whether their intentions align. And that shift alone eliminates a massive amount of confusion because the dynamic becomes transparent from the beginning. Conversations carry subtle tension because interest has been acknowledged. Curiosity remains alive because the relationship has direction, and you no longer find yourself sitting quietly while someone describes another person they are dating because the boundaries of your involvement are clear from the start. And this clarity strengthens your presence because it signals that you respect your own time and emotional investment enough to avoid situations where your intentions are hidden or misunderstood. And over time, this discipline builds a reputation around you because people begin recognizing that you communicate openly, that you are not afraid to express interest respectfully, that you approach connections with honesty rather than hesitation. And this reputation changes how others interact with you because clear intention often attracts people who appreciate direct communication while quietly filtering out those who prefer ambiguous dynamics where emotional support is accepted, but romantic interest is never considered. And the more you practice this approach, the more natural it becomes because you realize that expressing interest is not about forcing someone to respond a certain way. It is about honoring your own desires by bringing them into the open. And once you adopt that perspective, The fear that once kept you silent begins losing its power because the outcome matters less than the act of living truthfully. And this mindset transforms your experience of relationships because instead of quietly hoping someone will eventually recognize your value, you present your intentions confidently and allow the connection to reveal whether it belongs in your life. And that shift creates a completely different trajectory where your time, attention, and emotional energy begin flowing toward people who respond with genuine interest rather than polite appreciation. And as this transformation unfolds, you start noticing something remarkable. The pattern that once placed you in the friend zone again and again slowly fades because your behavior no longer supports that outcome. You no longer hide what you want. You no longer pretend friendship satisfies your intentions when it clearly does not. You no longer build months of closeness around unspoken expectations, and instead you step into each connection with calm honesty, disciplined communication, and the quiet confidence that comes from respecting your own life path enough to pursue relationships that align with it. Number 3, he gives too much too quickly. Another pattern slowly shapes the friend zone long before anyone says a single word about it. And it begins the moment you start giving more attention, more availability, and more emotional investment than the connection has actually earned. Because when you meet someone you are interested in, your instinct pushes you to prove your value immediately. You answer every message within seconds. You stay up late during conversations that stretch for hours. You cancel your own plans to be present whenever she needs someone to talk to. And from your perspective, these actions seem like loyalty and dedication. You believe you are demonstrating how much you care. You believe that being reliable will separate you from the countless people who appear inconsistent in her life. Yet something subtle begins forming beneath the surface that you may not notice at first. Because when one person gives constant attention without limits, the connection loses the natural rhythm that attraction requires. And instead of curiosity developing slowly, the entire interaction becomes predictable. She begins expecting your responses instantly, expecting your emotional availability whenever she needs it, expecting your attention without wondering whether you are busy building your own life somewhere else. And this is where the dynamic quietly shifts, because people tend to value what appears scarce and purposeful more than what appears endlessly available. Not because they consciously decide to treat someone differently, but because human psychology responds to signals of priority. And when your entire schedule bends around someone you barely know, you unintentionally communicate that your life has no direction beyond maintaining the connection, and the result becomes painfully familiar. She enjoys your company. She appreciates your kindness. She likes talking to you when she is bored or overwhelmed. But the excitement that drives attraction never develops because nothing about the interaction creates curiosity about your life. She already knows you will be there whenever she wants attention, and over time the relationship stabilizes into emotional convenience rather than romantic tension. And this is where many men begin experiencing silent frustration because they watch other people enter her life and receive interest much faster, even though those individuals invest far less effort. And the confusion deepens because it appears unfair on the surface. Yet the deeper explanation lies in the structure of the dynamic you created through constant availability. Because when your life revolves around someone else, your presence loses the sense of direction that makes people curious about you. And curiosity is the spark that keeps attraction alive. Curiosity emerges when someone senses that you have a path you are walking that does not revolve entirely around them, when they realize your time is meaningful because it is connected to goals, ambitions, discipline, and responsibilities that shape your daily actions. And this is where Stoic discipline becomes incredibly powerful, because it trains you to build a life that does not collapse the moment someone new appears. Instead, you continue pursuing your work, your health, your personal development, your friendships, your responsibilities, and when you interact with someone, you enjoy their presence without abandoning the rest of your life to maintain constant connection. Imagine how different that dynamic feels from the other side, when someone notices that you respond thoughtfully, but not instantly, that you sometimes end conversations because you need to focus on your goals, that your schedule contains priorities that matter deeply to you, and suddenly the perception shifts because your attention becomes something valuable rather than something automatic. And when that shift occurs, conversations start carrying curiosity again because the other person wonders what occupies your time, wonders what you are building, wonders what direction your life is taking, and that curiosity invites deeper engagement naturally without you forcing anything, and the transformation begins with small practical actions that reshape how you invest your time. You start organizing your day around your own priorities first. You commit to improving your physical health through consistent training. You dedicate focused hours to learning new skills or strengthening your career path. You reconnect with friends who challenge you to grow, and as your life becomes richer, your need to constantly chase attention disappears because you already experience purpose through your daily actions. And when someone new enters your life, they encounter a person whose presence carries calm confidence rather than desperate availability, someone who enjoys. Conversation yet does not sacrifice their direction to maintain it, and this balance quietly transforms how people perceive you because you no longer appear like someone seeking approval through endless attention. You appear like someone who values their own life enough to share it selectively, and this selective investment becomes powerful because it communicates self-respect without needing dramatic statements or forced behavior. And over time, the friend zone pattern begins fading because the conditions that created it no longer exist. You are no longer the person who gives everything immediately. You are the person who builds connection gradually while maintaining your own path. And that shift changes the entire experience of relationships because attraction begins developing alongside mutual curiosity rather than being buried beneath one-sided emotional labor. Number 4. He avoids risk and rejection. The deepest layer behind the friend zone sits quietly inside the decisions you make about honesty and courage, because many men remain trapped in this pattern, not because they lack value, but because they avoid the uncomfortable moment where truth must be spoken clearly, and instead of expressing what they want, they maintain the illusion that patience will eventually transform friendship into romance. So weeks pass, months pass, sometimes even years pass, while you continue interacting with someone whose presence matters deeply to you. Yet the conversation about intention never happens because somewhere inside your mind, a quiet calculation repeats itself again and again. If I say what I want, the connection might disappear. If I remain silent, I can at least keep this person in my life. And this calculation appears logical at first, but it slowly traps you inside a situation where your real desires remain hidden behind polite behavior. And that hidden tension becomes exhausting because every interaction carries unspoken expectations. Every conversation reminds you of what you truly want, yet refuse to communicate. And eventually the emotional weight becomes heavy because you realize you are living half-truthfully. You are present but not honest, involved but not authentic, and that internal conflict drains your confidence over time because the part of you that knows what you want remains silent, while the part that seeks comfort controls your actions. And this is where Stoic discipline becomes essential because it demands that you confront reality directly rather than hiding inside comfortable illusions. It encourages you to act according to principles that strengthen your character instead of protecting temporary comfort. And when you begin applying that mindset to relationships, something powerful begins happening because you stop pretending that silence protects you from pain and start recognizing that silence actually extends confusion indefinitely. Imagine approaching a connection with the understanding that clarity is always better than prolonged uncertainty. Imagine meeting someone who interests you, and instead of building months of friendship around unspoken expectations, you communicate calmly that you enjoy spending time together and want to explore something more intentional. That simple moment of honesty instantly reveals the direction of the connection, because the other person either shares that interest or does not, and both outcomes provide valuable clarity that allows you to move forward instead of remaining stuck in endless speculation. And once you adopt this perspective, the fear that once controlled your actions begins losing its power, because you realize that living truthfully strengthens your self-respect, regardless of how someone responds, and that self-respect becomes the foundation for transformation, because it shifts your attention away from seeking approval toward building a life aligned with your values. And when you operate from that place, your interactions change naturally, because you no longer approach relationships with hidden expectations. You approach them with openness and curiosity. You communicate what you want respectfully. You observe whether the other person responds with equal interest. And if the connection does not move in the direction you desire, you redirect your energy toward opportunities that align with your intentions. And this discipline protects your time, your emotional investment, and your sense of purpose, because you stop pouring attention into situations where your presence is appreciated but not chosen for deeper connection. And over time, this approach reshapes your identity, because you become someone who acts with clarity instead of hesitation, someone who respects their own path enough to pursue relationships that align with it, someone who understands that honesty may close certain doors quickly, but it also opens the right ones much faster. And as this transformation unfolds, the friend zone pattern fades, because the behaviors that once created it disappear from your life. You no longer hide your intentions. You no longer wait indefinitely hoping someone will recognize your value. You no longer sacrifice your direction for temporary emotional comfort. Instead, you walk forward with calm confidence grounded in discipline, clarity, and self-respect. And that shift changes everything. Because the same person who once remained quietly trapped in endless friendship roles becomes someone who chooses connections intentionally, communicates openly, and builds a life that naturally attracts people who appreciate both their presence and their direction. If this message hits something deep inside you, then you already know the truth many people spend years avoiding. The patterns keeping you stuck will not change until you decide to change them. And that is exactly why the Stoic relationship blueprint for men exists, filled with timeless principles that rebuild your discipline, clarity, and self-respect, so you stop living in the background of other people's choices and start directing your own life. It is now also available as an audiobook, so you can absorb this life-changing knowledge while walking, jogging, commuting, or training. And once you get it, the wisdom is yours forever, always available when you need to reset your mindset and remember who you are becoming. And the link is waiting in the comments. If you are ready to stop repeating the same story and take control of your path, comment, "I choose the blueprint," like the video, and subscribe so more men can discover these truths and avoid years of silent frustration that no one ever warned them about.